Good morning, everyone, and a happy new year. It is 2025, and here we are, awakening our compassion. We're still going. 2024 has done. We've done it. We survived 2024. We ended the year thinking to ourselves, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to awaken my compassion. And now the new year has started. We're 4 days in. I hope it's a happy one so far. Yeah, and we are continuing with the intention to awaken our compassion. So how wonderful that is. We're not just leaving our compassion behind in 2024 and going into 2025 without it. We are carrying it in our hearts into the new year. We're going forth with compassion. And we know now how we can do that. Primarily, we do it with the intention, I'm going to awaken my compassion. Go back to week 1. We made the intention, I'm going to awaken my compassion. I'm not 100% sure how, but that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, and I'm going to trust the process. And as the weeks go by, cultivate confidence in the process, but understanding that the awakening of our compassion primarily is through the intention. We're awakening our compassion from within, inside. It's an inner work. The course, Awakening Our Compassion, is a 6-week course. And this just so happens to be the 6th week. So that means it's the final week of awakening our compassion. So we need to go out with a bang today. We need to go out thoroughly inspired to awaken our compassion. Because this time next week at 10 a.m., there'll be no Awakening Our Compassion course. We will be left to our own devices. But hopefully now you'll have the confidence to go forth into 2025 with this intention to awaken compassion. And alongside that, or alongside you, or above you, if you wish, your new friend on the journey of awakening compassion, none other than the Buddha of compassion sitting on a lotus on the crown of your head. How nice to have a friend like that. Yeah. Sitting up there. Although we can't see him, having confidence. Or if you wish, you can just imagine light. We've also got the mantra of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum, to keep us hooked and connected. Hooked and connected. You can never have enough hooks, can you? In a bathroom. Nothing worse than a bathroom without hooks. A kitchen without hooks. As soon as those hooks go up, life changes. You can put things on them and they stay there, don't they? Like a mug on a hook, can stay there for weeks, months, years even. A towel on a hook. A hook on the back of a door, it doesn't take much, does it? Doesn't take much thought. A hook on the back of a bathroom door, or even 3 hooks. It makes a big difference. You put things on them. So we have the hook. We're hooked into compassion with the mantra of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. This course, Awakening Our Compassion, has gone quickly, isn't it? What's happened? That's why a lot of these courses are 8 weeks, because 6 weeks just... What's happened to those 6 weeks? This course could go on forever. Imagine that. an awakening compassion, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Of course, because compassion, it's an ocean of compassion which we can cultivate. But like everything, it has to come to an end. And we're going to conclude today with the theme compassion in action. Compassion in action, how we can put into practice our compassion. So this class today, in some respects, is the most important session, because this is how we can actually turn the knowledge, the understandings we've got here on this training into our life. When we put compassion into action, then it comes alive. It's three-dimensional. We get a taste, we get feelings, we get a sense of our life becoming meaningful. A life without compassion, there's a sense that there's a lack of meaning in our life, and then we can feel unhappy. But when we put compassion into action, immediately our mind elevates, everything improves. So that's my little preamble for week 6, compassion in action. Thanks for arriving and joining in the beginning of the year. We're going to start off with a meditation, going through all the trainings that we've learned thus far. Breathing meditation, cultivating the intention to generate, awaken our compassion, visualizing light on the crown of our head, reciting the mantra of compassion, then meditating on compassion. So please find a good posture that you can settle into, ensuring you're free of distractions. And we begin by focusing on our breathing. Focusing on our breathing, entering and leaving our body. Going to awaken my compassion. We set this positive intention in our heart and focus on it for a short time. And as we cultivate this intention to awaken our compassion, we allow our heart to reach out across the world. We can visualize on the crown of our head white light. And if we wish, we can think this is the Buddha of compassion, seated on the lotus, radiating lights across the world. This light descends to our crown chakra, enters our body, fills our body, blissful energies. Awakening our compassion. And if we find it helpful, we can recite the mantra of compassion as we engage in this visualization. Om Mani Padme Hum. O Buddha of compassion, please bestow the jewel of enlightenment upon me so that I can liberate all living beings. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. Allowing our compassion to awaken, we hold in our heart great compassion. How wonderful. If all living beings could be free from their suffering. Hold this compassion in your heart, single-pointedly. How wonderful. If all living beings could be free from their suffering, extend this compassion as far as you can imagine. Just for the last few moments, try to hold this precious mind. How wonderful. If all living beings be free from their suffering. Okay, thank you very much. Having the mind, great compassion present, which is how wonderful if all living beings could be free from suffering. For as long as we have that present in our heart, our suffering is pacified, reduced, and we are protected from negativity. This is an extremely powerful, positive mind. And there can be this, what about me? When we're generating great compassion, there's this little voice saying, okay, so I'm sitting here wishing for all living beings to be free from suffering. But what about me? Who's gonna look after me and take care of me? Who wants me to be free from suffering? When we generate great compassion, the best of our ability, whatever that feels like, even it's just a little thought in our mind, how wonderful if all living beings could be free from suffering. When we generate that mind, we are including ourselves in all living beings. And if we want to really help ourselves become free from suffering, we need to turn the attention around off ourselves onto others and awaken our potential. Because our potential is not to be self-centered. Anyone can be self-centered. Doesn't require any effort, does it? We don't have to study and read and train about how to be self-centered. It's a natural occurring mind. But when we turn our attention around to all living beings, we are awakening the capacity in our mind, which is to have concern, to have the sense that others are important and others' suffering is important for us. That's our capacity. And it is that mind, that compassion, that awakens our full potential as a human. It's there if we want it. So this course has opened or introduced the possibility of how we can awaken our full capacity and potential as a human. The way we do that is we keep generating compassion. So our capacity moves from a self-centered perspective to a universal perspective. We feel others' suffering as keenly as we do our own. Yeah. We are no longer the center of our universe. We are just a cell in the vast body of life. Remember that one? From the interconnected course. We're just a cell in the vast body of life. You imagine having this mind. I was in an office the other day. Anyone ever been into an office? You know, like a commercial office, company office. And they had a picture. Well, they had this diagram. Not a diagram, but they had what would you call it? On the wall of the office, they had photos of everyone who was working there. Yeah. And then down, it was sort of, it kind of looked like a tree, the way they designed it creatively. So down the bottom were all the regular workers. Yeah, that and the photos, just like administrative staff, receptionists, yeah. And then photos. And then as the images, as the diagram, picture, design, display went higher, there were less photos. And the people in higher positions, photos were there. Until finally there was the, you know, like the CEO, and their photo was bigger. Yeah, of course. And sharper. And they were up there with a big smile on their face. And I was one of the workers was chatting with me, and I found that I said, you know, where are you? I found their photo. Yeah. Oh, there you are, there you are. He was right down the bottom, or he's like second from bottom. And then right at the bottom of this display, there was it's like a place where someone had been, but their photo had been taken out, and it was just empty, waiting for the next person. And it was right down the bottom of this tree. And I said to the guy, you know, which place is better to be? You know, which place is better to be? So naturally, we think it's higher. You know, we think it's higher. We gravitate upwards like that. And we were chatting. I was saying, you know, the best place in that tree is right down the bottom. In that empty space there. When we're talking about transcending and elevation from a spiritual perspective, we're not talking about transcending and elevating, becoming higher than others. Yeah. In fact, it's said in some meditation texts, and this will get you going, this little quote. It says, whenever I associate with others, yeah, whenever I associate with others, may I view myself as the lowest of all. Whenever I associate with others, may I view myself as the lowest of all. And with a perfect intention, may I cherish others or love others as supreme. May I see others as higher. With respect to, Buddha referred to this display, he talked about the tree of ambition. So it said that from a worldly perspective, the higher you become, as in the more responsibilities you have, the higher position you have, the higher status you have, the higher reputation you have, the higher you become from a worldly perspective, it's like a tree. So the branches of a tree become thinner. So when you climb a tree, you know, the strongest place of the tree is down the bottom, that is rooted in the earth. the most fragile place is higher up, where the branches become thin, yeah, and less stable. And eventually, when you go up from in a worldly perspective, in whatever way, eventually you fall down. So the best place to be is right down the bottom. So this teaching, viewing ourselves as the lowest, this is not in any way reducing self-confidence or self-esteem. What it's doing, it's enabling us to practice what is known as humility. Yeah. And reducing the size of our ego. Because if our ego is big, then there's not much space in it for compassion. Yeah. We don't want to feel the suffering of others. We don't want to think about the suffering of others because we're primarily concerned with ourselves. Yeah. The best way to help ourselves is to move our attention away from ourselves into the world of others. Yeah. By developing a sense that we are, by seeing the reality of the situation in that we, the egocentric mind, the mind that is primarily focused on the self, feeling we are the center of the universe, no one else is thinking that. No one is really that bothered about us. Yeah. Are they really? I mean, but why? Because they're so bothered about themselves. Yeah. Only we are bothered about ourselves in this kind of continuous way. There are billions of people on the planet, and none of them are bothered about us in the way that we are bothered about ourselves, right? So we're going around all the time thinking, oh, poor me, woe is me. Why is this so difficult? Nobody else is thinking that. Nobody is that bothered. So from who's right? The billions of other people or ourselves? Is our egocentric view correct? Is it a correct view? When we say correct view, is it in accordance with reality? This is a sort of make or break instruction. You can hear this, hate it, never come back again. It can happen. Yeah. I've heard this instruction many times. Sometimes it's quite difficult to take, especially when the ego is, it's kind of like the egocentric mind is being targeted by this wisdom. This is called the sword of wisdom. But if we're ready to hear this, it's such a relief. You just think, oh, okay, I've been mistaken for a long time, going around thinking that I'm the center of the universe. Nobody else is thinking that. What I really need to do is allow myself to wake up in 2025 and see myself for what I am, which is a cell in the vast body of life. I'm distinct, of course, but I'm intimately bound up with all living beings. Everything I do affects them, and everything they do affects me. And it makes much more sense to go around each day concerned and working on behalf of everybody, as opposed to just being concerned and working on behalf of myself. Because if I continue just working for myself, thinking about myself, and those people who I'm attached to only, then I will experience continuous frustration, confusion, disappointment, depression. Normal state of affairs. But as soon as I allow compassion to awaken and see things for what they are, in accordance with reality, in that I am not the center of the universe and it's only my confused egocentric mind thinking that, yeah, when I can get my head around that and I'm ready to allow this truth to manifest, my problems will just disappear. You know, in that space of compassion, if we're ready to hear this and to do it, our problems can disappear overnight. Yeah, for as long as we hold great compassion in our heart. What is great compassion? The wish for all living beings to be free from suffering. Our problems have gone. It's just when we forget. Yeah. It's when we forget, the problems come back. You think, how could that's preposterous to say that. I'm too complicated. My problems are too complex. They can't just disappear like that. Yeah. In reality, the solution to our problems is very, very simple. Stop thinking about ourselves and to cultivate great compassion. That is the solution. And if we do that, our problems will stop. As soon, does life sometimes ever feel complicated? Yeah. Yeah. Human life feels complex, isn't it? We maybe even say, oh, this is so complicated. Why does everything have to be so complicated? You know, because great compassion is not present. So when you're feeling life is complex, yeah, when you're feeling that things are just awkward and difficult, ask yourself, where is great compassion in all of this? Allow great compassion to drop into your mind. Life is no longer complex anymore. The solutions to your problems are no longer complex. The solutions to all our problems are to cultivate positive states of mind, because our problems come from negative states of mind. The supreme positive state of mind is compassion. Yeah. Compassion will solve all our problems. All we need to do is just to remember great compassion. How do we remember it? By cultivating the intention, I'm going to awaken my compassion. And then put that intention into practice. So from a spiritual perspective, when we talk about compassion in action, it may seem like we need to go out and buy a first aid kit, get a high-vis jacket on and just walk around the street looking for people who need our help. This is the obvious attitude initially when you think, right, I want to be a compassionate person, let's go. And when we think about practical, physical ways to put compassion into practice, getting a first aid kit. I bumped into someone on a bridge one day. Anyone ever had that experience? Just walking along and meeting someone on a bridge. Uh, it's a beautiful metal bridge near where I live. And it was during the end of lockdown. And it was a student, hadn't been to a class for a while, but I tracked them down on that bridge. Yeah. Well, I didn't really. It was just a random encounter. And they couldn't it wasn't like bumping into them in Sainsbury's where they could dive into the next aisle and avoid me. There was no turning back. They were walking one way and I was walking the other. The only way they could have avoided me was jumping off the bridge. Our paths crossed. Yeah, so, oh, hello. Yeah. And you know, I've been around long enough to not expect people to sort of explain why they haven't been to the class in 3 or 4 years. I know that, yeah, human life is distracting and we have many things. People come and go, of course. That's fine. But usually when I bump into a student who hasn't been for a while, they feel like they have to tell me why they haven't been, you know, like a confession. Where have you been? And they said, I've decided, you know, during lockdown, I decided to become a nurse. So I've been retraining and focusing on becoming a nurse. I felt I really wanted to help. Yeah. How wonderful. You know, now they're a nurse. This encounter on the bridge was a few years ago, and they trained during lockdown. Now they're out there on the front line, nursing away, putting their compassion into action. So we think, how wonderful that they had this calling. Many nurses have this, don't they? They have this like calling, and not some of them not at the beginning of their life, halfway through their life. And for this person, they were in their late 40s. That's wonderful. However, you don't have to become a nurse. Yeah. The world needs nurses. The world needs people out there on the front line, you know, paramedics, people going out on the front line actively helping. But from a spiritual perspective, to put compassion into action primarily is about cultivating the pure mind of compassion. That's primarily how we put compassion into action, is by going around our day, waking up in the morning, thinking I'm going to awaken my compassion. And then through the day, keeping compassion in our heart. So that means we don't want to suffer ourselves. Yeah. So as soon as when we experience mental, physical suffering, if we have compassion in our heart, we do something about that. How can we stop our own mental suffering? Yeah, our own pain, our own unhappiness, by cultivating compassion. Yeah. I don't want to suffer. I don't want other people to suffer. As I said in the first session, it's non-harmfulness. I don't want to cause myself harm any longer. I don't want to think about myself in such a way that causes me to experience harm any longer. And I don't want to think about others in a way that causes them to experience harm. How can I do that? By cultivating the pure mind of compassion, which is just the wish. How wonderful if everyone could be free from suffering. And then holding that through the day. So it says, you know, in the text on compassion, whoever we see, whoever we think about, and whoever we remember, yeah, whoever we see, whoever we think about, whoever we recall, we cultivate compassion towards them. How wonderful if you could be free from suffering. That is how we put compassion into action. Based upon that, we may do a course, or we may not. You know, we may give money, or we may not. Like, for example, you know, when you're walking down the street and, like, let's say there's someone from UNICEF, you know, these charity raising funds on the street, right? So let's say you've woke up in the morning, I'm going to awaken my compassion. You're walking down the high street and then you get approached by it's usually someone with a big smile, isn't it? And then they start telling you about the children in a developing country and how you, through your £5 donation per month, can help them. Yeah. So then you can be in a dilemma. You think, so if I'm cultivating compassion, does that mean I have to give £5 a month or not? It's not black and white. It's not one way or the other. You might do or you might not. Just simply by not giving or not helping in that moment doesn't mean that you don't have compassion. It just means that you've decided that you're not going to give the money to that, whatever that is. You may give it to another cause, or you may be storing it away and giving it away when you die. Because eventually we have to give everything away anyway, don't we? You know, so when we make our wills, testaments, as we're making them, we can make them with compassion. You think, I'm giving everything away eventually. May whatever I've got, whether it's a house, property, finances, and whoever I'm giving that to, may help them in some way to reduce their suffering. Yeah. So whether we give or we don't, or whether we do courses or we don't, or we might physically look like we don't have that much of a compassionate life. Like this previous student who I bumped into on the bridge, she had this dilemma during lockdown because she was learning about compassion. She felt that her life wasn't that compassionate, like she was just a bit mundane. But the good news is, and this is what makes the training in compassion quite simple, and it means we don't have to make that many changes. The good news is that whatever our life looks like on the surface, or however, it may not, like the work that we do, for example, or the activities that we do may seem just quite neutral. Through cultivating compassion in our mind, we turn neutral actions into compassionate ones. So it's the intention behind the action as opposed to the action itself. Because we know, you can give money or you can engage in what appears to be compassionate actions, but the intention may not be one of compassion, or it may not be pure compassion. So what we're doing in this training is we're trying to get the intention right first. And then naturally, all the actions based on that intention will be pure. It's said as well, Nagarjuna, who was a great meditation master, he said, if you want to help others, if you have the wish to help others, and you keep that wish, I really want to help people, I really want to do something meaningful to help others, keep having that wish, that compassionate wish. Eventually, you'll have more and more and more and more and more opportunities to help them. You don't have to run out there looking for opportunities. Just through having the intention to want to help others, more and more and more and more opportunities will come. So you can see really the takeaway from this session on compassion in action is to keep focusing on this intention, which we set on week 1. We're going to set it again now so we can go into the new year with it, and we can end this course with it. What is the intention? I'm going to awaken my compassion. As I was saying a few weeks ago, this training, very easy, very smooth, very gentle, doesn't require any external changes. We just change our mind towards what we're doing. Whatever action we're doing, we turn our neutral action into a compassionate one. Cooking, walking, talking, eating, preparing food, driving, so forth. Sleeping even. Karma, positive karma is created through intention. Negative karma is created through intention. So when we engage in actions motivated by compassion, this is positive karma. So this will be our concluding meditation that we can take into the new year, that we can conclude the course with. So please gather your mind. Beginning by focusing on the breathing. And we can try a special meditation with our breath as we breathe in. We can think to ourselves, may I be free from suffering. Breathing in, may I be free from suffering. This is step one in awakening our compassion. Breathing in, may I be free from suffering. Breathing out, may others be free from suffering. So we're combining compassion with our breathing. Breathing in, may I be free from suffering. Both now and in the future. Breathing out, may others be free from suffering. So we're combining our breathing, meditation with compassion. This is something so practical we can take with us into our daily life. Just connecting with our breath reminds us to generate compassion. And then we remember our opening intention on the course. Six weeks ago. It was the simple, beautiful wish. I am going to awaken my compassion. We can keep this positive mind, this positive wish, this positive resolution in our heart continually this year. And this will enable us to put our compassion into action naturally. So simple, so smooth. I'm going to awaken my compassion. Hold this intention deep in your heart from moment to moment in the space of meditation. And we consider these 6 weeks of this course, our effort in meditating and putting into practice what we've learned in our daily life. This is all good karma for us. So now we dedicate this energy over these 6 weeks. We dedicate it so we can fulfill our wish to awaken our compassion. We can put compassion into action and we can benefit not only ourselves, but our community and all the people in our life and across the world. May everyone benefit from this wonderful, positive activity. And then without forgetting your special intention, please bring your session to a close. So thank you very much for joining this Awakening Your Compassion course. Coming on this journey through the festive season and New Year. It's been wonderful gathering together each week. I hope you found it meaningful, beneficial. Try to keep the essence of this course in your heart and any special feeling that you gathered through remembering this special intention. I'm going to awaken my compassion. Following this course, there will be all the resources sent out from all 6 weeks and the New Year's Eve retreat. If you want to review, refresh, you'll be able to find those online. And then starting on January the 25th, which is a Saturday at 10 a.m., there's a new course starting called Himalayan meditation. Yeah, how we can feel inspired to transcend the problems of human life, looking at meditations which were preserved in the Himalaya for hundreds and hundreds of years. We now have access to them here. Maybe we're not in the Himalayas, or maybe you are. Wherever you are, in suburbia, in the city, in the country, in the hills, we shall have that opportunity starting on January 25th for 8 weeks. So maybe see you then. For one last time, I shall now open up the Awakening Compassion rooms if you want to discuss the course and any conclusions. Thank you, everybody. And once again, a Happy New Year.